So your organic sales number coming in above estimates, above expectations from the broader market. What is it that has been going so well? Let's start there.
Yeah, we came in at 3.1% and the consensus actually was down about 1.5%. We've seen a pretty broad-based recovery, across all parts of our business, across all regions. We saw growth in 15 of our top 20 markets. And I think, as you said, I think clients are seeing a bounce back in consumer confidence or growing consumer confidence. They're looking through the current level of restrictions to, really a very strong economic recovery in 2021. Now, there's no doubt that parts of our business, retail still down 4.5%, travel and leisure down 35% still in the first quarter. So there are parts of the economy where, client confidence is not there. But I do think we'll see that come back pretty strongly as we go through the year.
You have not boosted your guidance, though, for the overall year, Mark, today. And you've also cautioned that there's still a high degree of uncertainty going forward. What is it exactly that you're uncertain about or cautious about? I know we've come through a pandemic, so there's been a lot of uncertainty. But what is it about the recovery that leaves you uncertain?
Well, look, I think that we gave quite a broad range of guidance. We said mid-single digit, and I think we're holding that. Though I think we will expect to be, closer to the upper end of that than perhaps we would have done back in December when we gave the guidance. But there's no doubt that it's really, I think the direction of travel is very clear. It's upward, but the pace of recovery in certain markets is slow. There's a terrible situation going on in India at the moment. And, talking to our India country manager, really, severe lockdown there and impact on people. Western continental Europe, the recovery is probably somewhat slower than it has been here in the UK. I mean, the UK came out 4% in Q1, which despite the restrictions is a pretty strong growth. So I think it's really more about the pace and the speed than it is about the direction of travel.
You mentioned various sectors and how they'd performed in the first quarter. You said travel and leisure was still down for you, Mark. I was looking at the Google results, though, overnight. They showed a surge in ad sales related to travel and also to retail. Does this just reflect a difference in timing across the Atlantic? Is the US just ahead on that recovery?
Yeah, probably the US is a little bit ahead in terms of travel. I think the other thing is that, much of our work is in brand building for travel companies, and that's probably going to take something of a backseat in the short term to measures that really drive sales, where Google will naturally benefit. But as you say, I mean, they had an amazing result, up, I think, a third in their ad sales business, really strong growth at YouTube overall. And that, I think, reflects the shift into digital media. We saw the same thing in our business. E-commerce sales up 50%. Spending through connected television up 90%, much growth in digital media. So I think that in those parts of the media mix, where we work with Google and Facebook and Amazon, we are seeing strong growth as well.
Yes, let me ask you about working with some of those big tech giants. Google and Apple killing the ad cookie is the headline I read this morning. It's becoming harder, perhaps, for some of that data that marketers love to use to get hold of some of that. But some of that perhaps plays to your strengths. Maybe that benefits you. I wonder what kind of new advice and services you're giving to clients as a result of this disruption amongst these big tech firms.
Yeah, look, I think there's no doubt that the cookie allowed a degree of tracking in an online world that we'd never have allowed offline. So I think that moving to a greater degree of privacy for the consumer is the right thing to do. And in the long run, it will benefit our clients. And certainly, clients are turning to us. We launched a new unit, Choreograph, bringing our data capabilities together to advise clients in a privacy-first world how they can use their data responsibly and with consumer permission. And I think in the long run, it's the right thing to do. In the short term, and maybe a little bit painful, I don't think it's going to change the shift of ad dollars into digital media, though, in any way.
Let me ask you about your stock price, and I know most CEOs will tell me, and I'm sure you'll also echo these thoughts, Mark, that you manage the business for the long term and not with a focus on day-to-day share price moves. But thinking about longer-term share price performance, the stock price has risen slower maybe than peers this year. What are you doing at the business to try and close that gap?
Well, look, I think, as you say, we are focused on the long term, and we try not to look at the share price every day. We've had a pretty strong recovery since the nadir of last year. I think our share price has doubled. So I think it's really, perhaps, the further you fall, the more you have to rise. So, but as you say, we're focused on the business and, really creating, long-term shareholder value, and the investments that we're making today in creativity and technology designed to get us there.
We've been thinking a lot about inflation over recent weeks here at Bloomberg TV. Market talk a lot to people about inflation and the drivers of it. I wonder what kind of pricing power you have in your business, you're seeing in your industry, given the difficult times of 2020 and the recovery now.
I think we do have stronger pricing power, if that's the right phrase, in the digital parts of our business where, demand is strong. I think inflation, anecdotally has always been seen as good for the advertising business. Have to see what that is. But the main thing is, can we invest in those new areas of our business? Because I think that's where we have the opportunity to differentiate what we're doing. WPP was named by Forrester as a leader in e-commerce services recently, and that's a massively growing area of demand from our clients as they shift to seek their sales online.